you have ADHD and you struggle with your self-esteem, you are not alone, and this is a video you want to watch. My name is Sara Kelly. I'm an ADHD mindset coach, and I come out with videos every single week on everything ADHD and the isms that go along with having ADHD. If you are not already following me, please subscribe to my channel and turn on your notifications so that you never miss a video from me. I found out that I had ADHD or have ADHD just over 3 years ago, and before I knew that I have ADHD, I went through a lifetime of second guessing myself, hearing feedback like I was too much or not enough or lazy or anything in between. And so I took a real deep dive into learning about ADHD and my brain because my self-esteem has taken an absolute beating, mainly in my adolescence, but also throughout my adult life. If this is resonating with you, please tell me in the comments how you've struggled with your self-esteem, self-image in the past. Let's go over the most common ways ADHDers do struggle with their self-esteem, and then I don't want to leave you high and dry. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that you can use right now, today, to give you more perspective when it comes to having a lower self-esteem. You don't have to go through life suffering in silence. Maybe it's a little bit more imagined in our own brain than is actually sometimes true. And this actually comes down to our emotional dysregulation, some of the neurodivergent trauma that we've had throughout our lives. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first place that ADHD can really bite us in our butt is with our work performance and our academic performance. Individuals with ADHD might struggle with focusing on tasks, completing assignments, or staying organized. Frequent difficulties in academic or professional settings can lead to feelings of inadequacy and undermine self-confidence. The second way that ADHD can affect our self-esteem is our impulsivity and through social interactions. Impulsivity, common in ADHD, can lead to social blunders or saying things without thinking. These incidents might lead to embarrassment or negative feedback from peers, which absolutely can affect our self-esteem. I don't know about you, but I have been notorious in the past for this stick my foot in my mouth phenomenon. My brain works so quickly and I have all of these great ideas, or sometimes in the beginning they seem like great ideas, and I don't give my mind enough time to work out my thought process. And sometimes I say things that I later have verbal buyer's remorse on. If this is you too, I want you to know that you are absolutely not alone. We absolutely, as ADHDers, struggle with impulsivity. Our brain is working so fast, yet part of our executive dysfunction is our working memory. So we want to say the thing before we forget, but maybe we don't always execute it in a way that once we've had time to step back and really take a bird's eye view of the situation, and that can lead to the whole verbal buyer's remorse. The third way that ADHD can impact our self-esteem is through misunderstandings and negative feedback. People with ADHD may receive criticism for being forgetful, disorganized, or easily distracted, which can contribute to feelings of inadequacy and lower self-worth. Number 4 is perceived lack of control. Struggling with self-regulation and time management can lead to a sense of helplessness and frustration. This can impact an individual's perception or their ability to control their own life and choices. Number 5, and this is one that I grappled with for years, is comparison to others. This has bit me in the butt a ton as far as it affecting my own self-esteem, self-worth, which inevitably really affected how I showed up in the world. Constantly comparing oneself to peers who seem to excel effortlessly can negatively affect our self-esteem. The perceived gaps between one's abilities and those of others can lead to feelings of inadequacy. And finally, in my research, The last reason that we tend to struggle with our self-esteem and our self-worth is internalization of negative feedback. I don't know about you, but I have spent way too much time living in my head and going down the catastrophic vortex of replaying a situation, or maybe thinking that someone was rejecting me when I just misinterpreted what they said, or their delay in texting me back. Over time, individuals with ADHD might internalize negative feedback and develop a negative self-concept. This can create a cycle of self-doubt and further challenges in various areas of life. All right, now that we've gone over ways that ADHD can absolutely affect our self-esteem, let's talk about some tips and tricks that you can use right now, today, if you struggle with any of the things we've gone over so far in this video. Tip number one is educating yourself about ADHD. Understanding ADHD and its effects can help you realize that your challenges are not a result of personal shortcomings, but rather a neurobiological condition. Learning about ADHD can empower you to advocate for yourself and also to explain the needs that you have to others. Self-advocacy is huge, and the easiest way to do that is by understanding this neurological condition. Number two is to focus on your strength. A lot of us ADHDers are habitual people pleasers, perfectionists, and feel like we are imposters, like we don't deserve a seat at the table. It's very reasonable to thrive in one aspect of your life and to not be so good at another area of your life. A lot of times I think as ADHDers, because we have heard so much more negative feedback than our neurotypical counterparts, we try to be these perfect people, and that can lead to task paralysis, perfectionism, feeling like an imposter, and sheer overwhelm. Focus on your strengths and your weaknesses. Either find support to help you through that, delegate, or just be okay in your own skin that you're not good at everything. If anything that I'm saying so far resonates with you, please like this video and comment. By liking this video and commenting or sharing this with a friend, it pushes this video out to more people in the algorithm who might need to hear this message today. Number three is setting realistic goals. A lot of times our executive dysfunction, the part of our brain that is responsible for coordination of task, for time management, for emotional regulation, makes it really hard for us to know what we can handle on our plate and what we need to say no to. And when I say no, I'm not necessarily saying no to other people, although that's definitely part of it, but also saying no to ourselves. Know your limits. And once you know your limits, you can set realistic goals, and that will set you up for success. Number four is embracing tools and strategies. Implement tools and strategies to help you manage your ADHD symptoms. This might include using planners, alarms, reminder apps, and organizational systems to stay on track with tasks and responsibilities. And I know what you're thinking. This sounds like every other person we've talked to. Just use reminders, post-it notes, alarms on your phone, but they do work. My suggestion is, if something becomes mundane or an alarm, a specific sound turns into background noise that's easily ignored, be open and malleable to changing it up so that you can not depend so much on your brain to remember all the things. We struggle with our working memory. A lot of us are very forgetful, and actually that is how I found out that I have ADHD. For years before my diagnosis, I found my short-term memory failed me more often than I'd like to admit, and I thought that I was getting early onset Alzheimer's. Took a deep dive into learning more about ADHD because my kids had just received a diagnosis, and I was so grateful to know that working memory is part of ADHD and not early onset Alzheimer's. Number five is my favorite, and it's practicing self-compassion. A lot of times, those of us with ADHD who do struggle with self-esteem are so hard on ourselves. Yes, we have the executive dysfunction on the one side and the lack of dopamine, and that's the neurological part of having ADHD. But we add this whole extra layer of friction when we're really hard on ourselves. Try not to do that. Try to understand that you are an ADHDer living in a neurotypical world, and you are doing the absolute best that you can do. And that brings me into my next tip, which is celebrating your successes. Recognize and celebrate your progress, even if it's slow. Each step forward is an achievement, and acknowledging your efforts can absolutely boost your self-esteem. I think a lot of times with our ADHD brain, we are moving so quickly that we're on to one task and then moving quickly on to another task, but we don't really relish that moment of completing the prior task before we're moving on to the next thing. Celebration, this is absolutely backed by science, creates dopamine. And I know it sounds really, really silly right now to even say, but woohoo! Pat on the back, a little dance, anything to acknowledge what you're doing right instead of just focusing on maybe where you've dropped the ball or made a mistake or done something wrong. Not only creates dopamine, but it can raise your self-esteem, and it will help motivate you to move on to that next task. Try it out and let me know how it works for you. Number 7 is build a support network. A lot of us who have ADHD, especially a lot of us women who were diagnosed way later in life, probably because of our kids or just through the COVID pandemic, need to feel like we're a part of a tribe. There are so many women who are going through a new diagnosis of ADHD, just like myself, maybe just like yourself, and we're just trying to figure it all out. And community and people who understand you is huge. I happen to have a free Facebook group specifically for women who are late diagnosed with ADHD, linked in the description of this video. This is a no sales nonsense community where we lift each other up and support each other. So if you are female or female identifying and you found out that you have ADHD later in life and you feel like you're all alone on an island and you need community, click the link below and I will, as soon as I can, let you into the Facebook group, and feel free to build relationships in there, build relationship with me. We don't have to be alone journeying this ADHD, a condition that for so many of us we thought were just hyper little boys for so long. If this video is hitting home for you and you would like to check out my complimentary masterclass that goes over the 5 pillars to creating lasting change when you have ADHD and struggle with your self-esteem, there is a link below this video in the description. All you have to do is put in your first name and your email address, and I will email you the masterclass right away. And my final tip for you, tip number 8, is practicing mindfulness and awareness. And we've kind of already touched a little bit on this. If you are getting inside your head a little bit and struggling with your self-esteem, second guessing yourself, or maybe just downright beating yourself up, try to be that present, logical voice in your mind as your emotional brain is maybe spinning out of control, to ask yourself, is this really serving me right now? Is the things that I'm saying to myself, would I say that to a child? Would I say that to the 10-year-old version of myself? Sometimes just stepping back for a second and really paying attention to our internal dialogue and questioning it, challenging it, can absolutely stop us from spinning out of control and it depleting our self-esteem. Well, that is all that I have today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this video. If you found this video helpful, please like this video, comment what tip you're going to use, and share this with an ADHDer who you love. I come out with videos every single week on everything ADHD and the isms that go along with having ADHD. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week in the next video.